Hello, Dante Starshine here. Welcome to this beautiful day and another beautiful video. I felt compelled to comment on this film that just came out on Netflix, The Social Dilemma, about social media and about many of the people who designed social media coming out about the negative impacts it's having on our lives and on our society. And there's so much to unpack here. I really recommend watching the film, though I would also say to not allow fear based energies to arise within you in response to this film. When you engage with social media, we don't want to do it from a place of fear. And I felt to some extent the film might have inspired that as it focused so much on the negative. And at the end, it's like, yeah, social media, it has amazing impacts on our lives in positive ways. Though if you look at it from one lens, it can be seen as purely a negative thing, and it isn't. So, what are many of the things they're saying about social media that is less than ideal? Mainly how addictive it is, and also how it is used to spread misinformation. So, knowing this, then we are then becoming responsible. We need to become responsible, rather, for how we engage. Do we use it in addictive ways? Are we able to manage our addiction? And are we using it to spread good, truth, positive energy? And if we do that, then it becomes something very beautiful in our lives. I recognize I'm pretty addicted to social media. It's challenging territory because it is service. Before I turned it into work, I felt like I was sharing positive energy with the world, and realizing that had value became work. And it's also how to connect with friends, and it's how to make new friends, and it's how to connect with people with similar ideas. I'm in a lot of different groups on social media. It's so many different things at once. So it gets muddled for me because sometimes I may be very focused wanting to do something, but I get distracted by other aspects of it. And this film for me was a kind of good sign for me to recognize there's a lot of time that I get lost scrolling when I could be creating something bigger. The feedback loop of social media gives us this quick hit of dopamine or a certain sense of reward, satisfaction, but it's short term. So I notice for me that I don't work on my long term projects for writing a book or doing this or that because I'm always, doing the post or the video for today or the next day, right? And that's beautiful. But what if we want to leave a greater impact? In my case, social media, I just have to make myself aware of this, right? And when we talk about things that are addictive, the addictive nature of it, we have to remind ourselves that it is human nature to addict to things. From one perspective, and if you watch many of my videos, I tend to see things from this very multifaceted point of view where I'm not honing in on one truth. So seeing every side of the coin. So one perspective then is that everything's addictive. Food, the very thing that gives us life, or one of the things, is addictive. And medicine, healing medicine that helps us to change our consciousness and expand it to new realms, is healing, and it is addictive. And we can choose to use our energy in ways where we don't addict too powerfully, or we can bring all of our energy into the process of addiction, where we can see addiction as using something as a crutch to avoid or numb to repressed emotions or our own resistance to doing what we know to be really the best for ourselves. So why do we addict? And it's really because we seek connection. We seek connection to some state of being or some feeling through something. Though beneath that is our deeper longing to connect heart to heart with others. And many people use addictions socially to sort of make a false sense of connecting with other people while numbing themselves. Or they have a sort of addiction where it's just a home, personal sort of thing where they don't interact with people because they're too caught up in their addiction. And social media does something similar. It brings us to feel as if we're connecting with so many people. We are connecting with those people. Internet relationships and friendships are real, and they've had profound impacts on my life. Though, in a sense, we are projecting our energy far from our present moment reality, which is good and important. Our immediate surroundings and our body. We lose our presence in the immediate physical now. This is okay to an extent, though many of us in these times are living in this totally mental cyberspace where all of our energy is being projected outward. So we simply need those practices of making sure that we bring ourselves back into the now and limit the time that we use this tool and change the way that we use the tool more than putting a limitation on it, because the limitation method of healing and integrating addictions and things of this nature has never seemed to work for me, and for many I know. It's the adequate balance. I can't say it's not true that I can't say it's true that it hasn't worked for me, because it has. I've really had to stop cold turkey sometimes certain behaviors I was engaged in, and it does work. But when it comes to something that is having positive potential, I don't see that as the tool. If it's something totally and completely destructive that you're quitting, then the cold turkey restriction method is great. Anyway, so for me, this tech addiction is something that I think developed a little bit later, or earlier and later in some ways. I grew up with technology, and I was always on the computer as a kid. Though I think when I hit college, I was like, well, the computer is for homework and a little bit of Facebook time. And I don't have a smartphone. I didn't want to get that. It was only 5 years later that I got a smartphone. And in the years in between, I dropped out of school. I was doing great, but it wasn't for me. I began my spiritual path, and then I began traveling. And I did all of that without a phone for the first 3 years. And I would just log on to internet cafes. So the time that I spent on social media was very focused, and it was a sharing of this journey that I was on. And as the years passed, I continue to share and create and share of my own self and my heart, and share as well things that I believed would help other people. And with my experience in social media being that, I feel so much positive energy coming back to me. And eventually, when I started to see how the world was changing and what was possible with social media, it became my job to, the healing sessions became my job, but I saw it as the gateway for advertising it. The healing sessions were already my job before that, but it transitioned to being online in this past year. Really, I was doing maybe half and half online and in person before that. And even in using this in a productive way, I still find the addiction creeps in. But it becomes a lot easier. And if I just use my energy to focus on what I need to be doing to share good energy in the world, then it's very rewarding. I can easily get sucked into scrolling and looking at stupid things, though if I limit my time to doing 15 minutes of that, or only doing it once everything else is done, I start to hijack that dopamine reward system, because you also get this hit of dopamine from completing a task, and you actually get a much greater sense of that through completing tasks and completing tasks that contribute to your long-term well-being. So if you get that time in first, social media is a friend for you. And as for the other aspect of this, where we're using social media to spread disinformation and it's causing a lot of political unrest, that's something that we personally have to stand up for. We have to put out the truth we want to see, and we have to keep our message in alignment with the higher truth. So your engagement in this place that is becoming very distorted is helping it become more pure. And your voice saying, I don't want social media to do this. I don't want it to, force us into addictions. I don't want it to spread disinformation. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, I don't want this. And I, as your user or customer, because we're making them tons of money, right, want this to change. So use your platform for your voice, and we can combat so much of this. And, understand, again, with the addictions, we addict to it because on some level there's something beneficial for us within it. And if the core of addiction is seeking connection, then really connect on social media and don't use it superficially. Don't take just pointless selfies and pictures of your food and updates about the ins and outs of 3D things in your life. Share from your heart. Share your truth. Share your awakening. Share what brings you love. Share what lights you up. Share the things that matter to you, and don't get sucked into the superficial trap of it. We have the power to change things, and hopefully new networks come out there. So there's so much to be aware of, and I really encourage everyone to watch the video, the movie, The Social Dilemma. It's really important. And when we make ourselves aware of that, I don't think the solution is just delete your account. I think the solution is use it in a healthier way. There may be even an agenda behind this whole delete your account thing. And of course, don't forget that Netflix itself is an online company with an agenda, and Netflix didn't mention itself at all in that film. It was a Netflix-produced documentary, and Netflix didn't say anything about YouTube, really. It kept mentioning YouTube, but it didn't say, oh, YouTube does this or that, because it's a very similar service to Netflix. And finally, Timothy Leary, who is that old psychedelic guru, in the 90s came out saying that the internet is the new LSD. Psychedelics create connections, and so does the internet. And we can addict to these plant medicines, and we can addict to the internet. But if we fundamentally realize it's there for us to make connections, and it's there for us to expand our consciousness, and we only use it in that way, powerful things can happen. Don't give your power away. Claim your voice, and claim your power over your addictions by creating authentic connections with those in your life and new friends, new souls. So I love you very much. Check out my website,